Hello there and welcome. In this video I got you 10 tips and tricks for a good start in Monster Train 2. This whole video is dedicated to people who are new to the genre, new to the game, or both, and I hope that it will give you an idea how to be more successful and win your runs more reliable. Now, number one that I want to talk about, fundamentally, always choose a mechanic that you want to focus on. So, every faction that you play has some sort of a identity they revolve around. Here in this example, I will use Pyrogel as a stat that I will use to kill my enemies off. So my goal will be to take cards that utilize this stat, apply this stat, and play well around this stat. And this is the main takeaway. This game rewards you heavily for sticking to a certain trick and maxing the hell out of it, pun intended. So this is the first thing that I want to stress out because it is very, very, very important. The second thing, number two, analyze your enemies. Not only do you get a good readout about how your enemies are composed when you enter a fight, so you can mouse over everybody of those. Fight 1 is nothing much to write home about, but you get the idea. The other thing is you can always see the bosses in this run and their special abilities. After a couple of runs, you will know these bosses quite well, but they do define your limitations and your strengths and your weaknesses. The earlier you know how to handle the bosses along the way, the better. Same goes for your stage enemies. Many units here have really, really nasty abilities that can kick you right in the back when you are not respecting them. Effects like incantations when enemies act whenever you cast a spell or stuff like that can be very, very devastating. Therefore, go with open eyes into your fights and take a look on what your enemies do. It really pays off. Number three, which revolves around this fact, not every strategy is viable in each run, because sometimes bosses do negate certain strategies. This guy, for example, does apply a lot of damage over time on my units, which means I am already, right off the bat, forced to get myself good healing, armor, or HP increasers, or preferably a little bit of all of them, to survive this guy, actually. This is one thing that you really should note out, and try to avoid picking up a strategy that exactly will get countered by the bosses along the way. You get a little bit of a preview, so therefore it's wise to use it, and just accept that sometimes some strategies are not viable for your current run. You can't just redo the run if something comes up you don't like. So, number four, card enhancers. So every one of your units, which is not your hero, can be further enhanced, be it unit or be it spell. Each spell and each unit has, from the get-go, 2 slots where it can be enhanced. Not visible here right now, but it is how it works. Enhancing these units is more than important. It is basically what you will need to get your build really, really going. Therefore, when you find card enhancers along the way, always ask yourself, which one do I need? Do I currently need more upgrades for my units or for my spells? It really depends a lot on how your strategy is woven, but altogether, upgraded cards versus non-upgraded cards, the difference is insane. And not upgrading your cards well enough or something like that can easily spell doom for you. Number 5, card removal. So your deck has unlimited slots, basically. You can have as many units in there as you want, and spells. But the problem is that the time of a battle is always limited. You don't have an unlimited amount of turns in your battle. That means when your deck grows too big, you will run into trouble. I'll go deeper into that topic a little bit deeper down the road, but in a nutshell, it is very, very important and powerful to remove cards off of your deck, especially the cheap ones, the ones that you start with, here in this example, the Witch Weavers and the Fire Starters. When you have something more powerful than these, and basically every spell that interacts with the class specialties is stronger than that, you can easily take these as your first things to remove out of your deck. Same goes for creatures. Shield Stewards are generic tanks, Spear Stewards are generic damage dealers. Once you get something into your deck that replaces these, you have the same logic. You can just go and remove them. Number 6, on the next point, it is absolutely okay to skip the selection of the cards if you don't find anything that synergizes into your strategy. Nothing is, in my opinion, worse than picking up something just to pick up something, because it will bite your back. Eventually, one way or another, you will regret having this thing on you, and skipping it does even give you some extra rewards. So when there's nothing you find useful for your deck, rather pick nothing. It's way better for your economy. Number 7, gold is very, very powerful. With gold, we can, like I said, upgrade our units and or spells. We can re-roll and get more upgrades, because, you know, you can buy this whole shop empty, re-roll, and do it again if you have enough money, stuff like that. Also, with gold, we can make our deck slimmer. Other cool things that come up along the way. Altogether, gold is your acceleration currency during a run. The more gold you have, the more smack you got with everything you do. Therefore, mechanics that give you gold are always mechanics that make you faster in one way or another. And there's no build so far that I've been playing that hasn't been able to get faster by more gold. So when you are able to grind more, and especially talking about the extra challenges that you can put up to your fights, if you feel up to taking these, it can be very, very good, because the more gold, the faster you evolve. But yeah, greed can bite your back, so that's that. So, number 8, a few words about positioning things on your train. It is actually quite simple, but I still want to point out a few things. So, units are usually divided into tanks, damage dealers, and utility. You can basically get every one of your creatures somewhere into these roles, or at least standing between two of these roles. The Magma Mauler here, in his original form, before I pimped him out like that, was more of a tanky damage dealer. Low attack, higher HP, you get the idea. The basics here are very, very simple. If your hero is not one that wants to be at the very, very direct battlefront because he's a tank or such, I find them ideal in the middle floor. Your mileage may vary, but I find this a pretty good generalistic approach, because the enemy will be softened up by my dudes from the bottom floor, and then the hero can wipe them up. If you have a battle-centric hero, he wants to be in the basement, obviously. After that, tanks go to the front line, obviously. Damage dealers right behind, utility behind that. It is a very classic setup. We can optimize and change and adapt to a current build in many, many ways. Builds work very differently. Some factions like to be moving between the ranks on the same floor, or even between floors. There's many different strategies, but it goes, for me, a couple of basic rules. The hero, if he's not battle-centric, doesn't want to be directly at the front line, and then the classic tank damage dealer utility setup might be not the best in the world, but it gives you a good foundation to optimize upon. And number 9, keep your deck small. I already mentioned in the intro, or a couple of points before, why that's so important. We have a limited amount of turns per battle, and therefore we won't be capable of drawing all the cards. But this is really not the only point why a small and slim deck is always preferable and desirable. It is very simply because we want to be able to rely on the fact that we get the stuff that brings us forward. The more cards we have, the lower the percentile chance gets to exactly draw what we want and what we need. The more combo reliant your build is, the smaller it wants to be. The less combo reliant, the bigger it can be. There are strategies that also utilize a really huge library. Don't get me wrong, many different things work. But in general, you want to favor a snappy, small selection of units that always give you the things that work well in any situation where we don't have to rely on the luck of the draw and can rely on the fact that we will get every turn what we need. Consume cards help a lot in this thing because they can be played once per battle and then we toss them away, making our deck effectively smaller again. I like these cards a lot for what they do because a consume card basically allows you to make your deck larger without making your deck larger. It is not really true, obviously. It still blocks a draw slot and can still mess up your luck of the draw. But at the end of the day, consume cards are very, very valuable if you want to add up something useful into your deck without bloating it any further. Alright, let's move on to number 10. When you're building your deck, choose carefully. Choose your primary strategy and then don't stray too far away from your path. The factions that you choose have very different and very strongly, strongly differing strategies. You know, a combat-centric strategy does need different cards than a spell-centric strategy, for one. What's very important, though, is don't rely only on one tool alone. Have some backup that is synergistic with what we got here. This might be a little bit complicated at the first glance, but let's put it to it with an example. So we are working here with Pyogel, which makes the enemy suffer harder whenever they get attacked. This is very nice for spellcasting things, because the more often we whack them out, damage gets repeated, so Witchweave is actually quite good for that one. But it also synergizes very good with all creatures that hit often. They don't even need to hit hard, because every time you get hit, you get the total amount of Pyogel stacks as damage. This means this strategy is synergizing well with spells and often hitting units. For example, you will find for basically any strategy that you pick, one or two extra ways how you can utilize it, and these are the synergistic paths that will help you countering specific enemies that are just too strong against what you're currently doing. Because it is, in my experience, nigh impossible in this game to have a strategy that just counters flat out everything. You will have weaknesses, and having a plan B that is working well with your main strategy has proven to be the best choice for me. Alright, that's been that. I hope these 10 tips will help you out in winning more often. Enjoy this game. It is one of the best deck builder roguelites that is currently available. Can only recommend it, and I hope this was helpful. Feel free to leave your own beginner tips down there, because I feel like 10 things can never be everything you need to know, so let us share the knowledge. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, consider donating to the channel, subscriptions, whatever tickles your fancy. I am very, very much appreciating all the help that I get. Many thanks to all of you who do support the channel. And of course, a special thanks to you especially for watching this video right here, right now, because you chewed through all the ad rolls and everything I had to say. Thanks for your time, and I hope this was helpful, and see you another day.